What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Caitlin Hyphen. You're tuning in to Ill Vibe Theory, your number one source for hip-hop and R&B in the Las Vegas Valley. Our special guest is in the building. Shout out to DJ88. Say what's up to the people. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my God. Thank you for having me.
We're really, really excited. Yes. So a quick rundown of the music before we get into our great interview with her. That was just, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. It's like HXNS. I'll Be Right Here. It's an instrumental. Really dope. Shout out to Noma for showing me that. Room in Here by Anderson .Paak in the Game. We also had Good Right Now, Jay Prince. We had Oasis by Maji Vu, who's Reggie's favorite. Fall in Love by Nav, of course. Words OVO. We had Overtime with Schoolboy Q, Miguel, Justine, Sky off of that new Blank Face. Did you guys like that, by the way?
I haven't gotten around to it yet. I'm terrible.
Cool.
I'm rocking with it.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then we had Senorita by Masego and Put It Down, starting it off with Toki Monster and Anderson .Paak. So we're going to get into this interview. Again, thank you so much for being here. I've been looking forward to it.
You guys have such a sophisticated level of music choices. I'm really
you think so?
Yeah, I'm really impressed by this.
Thank you.
What's the average age here?
We're all 21.
You're
or
all
wait,
21.
you're 22.
22.
You're 22
Same
now.
thing.
Okay,
You
so you're 21 in 2 days.
Huh?
You're
no,
21,
he's 22
No, you're
already.
21 and 2 days.
Oh, and
That's
Yeah, and 2 days.
He was like, I'm 22.
Right. Yeah, thank you.
But
I appreciate that.
I'm really impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When you had tweeted us, I was like, oh, she likes our music, you guys.
I
It was
actually
funny.
listened the last 2 weeks in a row.
Oh, wow.
I listen to I
much
sit on my
love.
patio and work a lot. So while I was outside, working on emails and stuff like that, I would listen to the whole show. It was awesome.
Oh, thank you so much.
Appreciate
That
it.
means a
That's
lot.
love. Thank
That
you.
really means a lot.
Shout out to Reggie.
Right.
Y'all can't see Reggie, but Reggie's doing work right
Work. He puts in work. So we're super excited. We've been pumping up this Anderson .Paak show since the moment we found out. I remember texting Jocelyn, and I was just like, oh my goodness, you're about to go crazy right now. AP is coming because that album Malibu was crazy.
It's crazy.
And then the project before that was good. So we're going to get into that. But starting out with the interview, we know you as a DJ.
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
But you've done so much more, as we said in our intro. So you were a club promoter, a contributing writer, a manager, an A&R assistant, a soundtrack supervisor with Atlantic Records, which is crazy. Talk about your experience from moving up the ranks and how you did that, I guess.
There was absolutely no plan. I was just obsessed with music. That's it. I didn't have the hustle and the architecture of how I was going to get to every next step came way, way later. When I was 17, I had an opportunity to I had a scholarship to art college, and instead I chose to go to New York for the first time, and that pretty much deterred my scholarship scenario. And I went out there and fell in love with hip-hop culture, and it just resonated with me in a way that I had not yet connected with anything before. And I had gone to Rocksteady Park and met all of these amazing people, and that was it. It was a very organic thing, and I went out there for 2 weeks. I believe it was for like the CMJ.
Cool. We've heard of that.
Right. And which all of those conventions were very, very young at that point, but they were really, really impactful because it was all about radio promotions at that time and street teams. Obviously, there was no internet and there was no social media and there was no any of that. And so it was a very grassroots guerrilla marketing style environment, which was a really, really passionate and intense environment. And so from taking on like going to clubs, seeing how all of these things sort of played out, and it was just raw. Like it wasn't accessible to everybody. It was almost like a secret society type of thing. Hip hop was not the, large well-oiled machine that it is right now. So you had to know certain people to get into certain things, and so that was kind of my mission at that time. And I went out there and I spent a couple of weeks and I came back and that was it. And so I started promoting clubs, and all of my friends were DJs and dancers at the time anyway, and this was like early 90s in LA, and the rest is her story.
So talk about, like, I guess that difference of how New York shaped like how you viewed hip hop, because LA is very strong in a different sense.
Well, I mean, again, that's why I asked how old you guys were, because even though there's obviously a large generational gap, it all sort of swings around for full circle. And at that time, I mean, New York was the birthplace of hip hop, period. So, I mean, that's one thing. But at that time, I mean, LA sort of had its presence. There was one radio station that played hip hop at that time. It was 1580 AM. It was an AM station.
Oh, wow.
It's called K-Day, which is one of the biggest memories for me in junior high school, being able to hear like freestyle music for the first time, and that's how NWA got broke on 1580. Like, that was the only station that would play it. Like, during that whole time, it was a very, very pinnacle point for Los Angeles, but obviously 5, 6 to 10 years prior to that was the birth of everything that was going on in New York. So to be able to go out there and really like touch and feel the culture and experience it, and see BDP play live, and see Big Daddy Kane and all of these amazing artists that I was so obsessed with at the time. That was it. I mean, I can't really put it into words. It was sort of a metaphysical thing. Like, I just connected with it in a way where I knew that not only hip hop, but that music in general was basically what my path was supposed to be.
Wow, that's beautiful. I think it's interesting because we went out to New York a couple of years ago, and I couldn't imagine being in the midst of when
it's so different now.
Up. And I mean, even then, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, we're here, like, this is crazy. We went to the Bronx and all that type of stuff. Yeah. So to imagine to be there at that time,
like,
that's crazy.
It's crazy how so much has changed since like then. I can't imagine how it is to really grow up genuinely in that, like.
It's a big difference, but like, I don't take anything away from like your enthusiasm and your, sort of quest for going out there and being able to touch all of those things is just as important. I always like to say, like, I lived it and you love it. That's crazy. and it's great to be able to see, 20-somethings want to invest in the backstory. Because there are those who do want to invest in the backstory and find out like where all of these come, because they're so passionate about what's going on right now. Because all of the artists that you guys love, and like, let's just take, for instance, whatever, the last 5, to 10 artists that you played on the show, they're all inspired by, and not just, hip hop artists from the birth of hip hop in late 70s, early 80s, but like, whether it be Ohio players or, whatever, 60s, 70s, everything is inspired from. So if you really, really love music, then you don't like one thing. You don't like one type of hip hop. You don't like one genre of music. Then you're just a follower. If you love music, then you love music and you're open to everything. And a lot of these artists, especially, Anderson .Paak, which is why I took to him so greatly, was so heavily influenced. And there's so many different genres of music that are, sort of like sewn within that whole material.
Definitely. And I mean, just hearing that story, like, that's only like one piece of the history. And you talked about all of these things. We mentioned all of these things that you did before becoming a DJ. And like we said, we know you as a DJ. So what was that moment for you? Like, it clicked. You said you had friends that were DJs and dancers, but what was that moment for you when you were like, I'm going to do this DJ thing. I'm going to see how it goes?
It was not intentional whatsoever. I had obviously been around DJs for, a long time. And most of my life was spent in nightclubs. And I'm very, very thankful for that, because I got to see and hear some amazing moments that, and again, like I said, at that time, there was no camera phones. There was no social media. There was no Snapchat. There was no anything. So which actually was awesome because you got to just be in that moment, and that's it. And if you were there, you there, and you saw it. And if you weren't, you weren't, and you heard about it the next day. But long story short, I was managing a DJ at the time who was very, very prominent DJ in Los Angeles, and he had gotten signed to a record company with a band that I had kind of helped curate, and he was kind of like, "Okay, so what are you gonna do now?" And I was like, "I'm not really quite sure." And he was like, "I really feel like you should DJ," and this was like 2000, right? Wow. So this was pre-Serato, all of that. And he was like, you know every single aspect about it except for actually like putting your hands on turntables, which is, you can learn that. What you do know is something that not everybody can grasp. Everybody can learn how to technically do something, but all of what you sort of have acquired over the years is something that's not accessible to everybody. So, and he, it was a huge catalyst in that. And actually that year he had gotten me turntables for Christmas and was like, I feel like you should do it. Just go. And my boyfriend at the time got me Serato right when it came out. And so I had been DJing for like a year and a half prior to that, all vinyl, because I have a vinyl collection that I have just anyway. And so I was a really good looking bad jukebox because I had an amazing collection of music, but I couldn't mix worth we're on college radio. That's right. I have to watch my mouth. But, my library was insane, and I was just like, right then Serato had come out, and I was like, okay, before I do all this, let me focus on this, because I knew this was going to be the next wave of what was happening. So, and that was that. That was around 2000, and that was in LA.
Sorry. What was your first gig?
I actually did the official after party for the Motorcycle Diaries film.
Wow.
That's like your first. I just did this for a film. Like, no big deal.
I did a lot of stuff in LA. So I had a lot of friends, and I had a lot of, we all kind of came up in the entertainment industry together. And like I said, everybody kind of knew me as someone who was very well versed in music. I was kind of like the go-to for what was new or what artists to check out or what have you. And so I floated off of that until I actually became very, very comfortable and talented skill-wise with what I was doing from a DJ perspective.
Nice. That's really awesome. And I mean, Fast Track, you've been DJing for several years now. How long has it been? You said 2000.
Yeah, so I guess that's 13.
13, okay.
I mean, 16.
Yeah. And and you've had...
I was like, wow, is it 2013 already? Yes.
And you've had residencies throughout your hometown in Los Angeles and all over Las Vegas, obviously. So talk about how you kind of like made your move in the DJ industry, because you can, DJ all you want on your own, and for you to make such a big staple right away and to be on a film, like talk about how you made your move from Los Angeles to Vegas on the scene, I guess.
I really wanted to take it seriously, and I had done a lot of music industry things that were fantastic experiences for me in LA, and I wanted something new and fresh, and I'm always sort of constantly challenging myself. Excuse me. So my dad and my stepmom had lived in Vegas for like 15 years. So I've been coming out here back and forth since the early 90s when magic was amazing. Yeah. And there were actual like dope parties that happened during magic.
Yeah.
And that like all of my friends and I would come out here twice a year and, see the most amazing shit. Like we saw, 36 Chambers album release party out here. Oh,
wow, that's crazy.
At, what was the club? It used to be in like a mini mall. This was before any nightclubs in any of the hotels. Oh man, I know there's somebody out there listening that knows exactly what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. It's like, it was like
Pops.
this.
What
It was
is
a
that?
huge, like it was the one staple joint out here. It did a lot of house music stuff and a lot of hip hop music stuff. Anyways, like that, Nas's album release party, Biggie's album release party, like all of those things happened during Magic. So I had really fond memories of Vegas from a music perspective, pre, Mega Club. And so it was kind of familiar to me already. So around 2003, 2004, I decided with my daughter's father, who was a poker player, we were like, okay, so Vegas seems to be, a good fit. Like, obviously, poker is, plentiful out there.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to take my DJ career to a different level because LA was rad in the sense of, like cool stuff happening and obviously a very vibrant cultural scene, musically, all of that. But as far as a career is concerned, or building a brand, or really taking it to the next level, from a career perspective, Vegas was what was going to be sort of, unfolding next on a larger scale. And I really wanted to be the first girl to sort of kick down those doors and really make a name for myself from a open format perspective.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Talk about how you did that. Because, I mean, especially back then, I guess, being in Vegas, it's not as common to see a lot of female DJs. So talk about how you broke down those barriers.
Well, it's funny, when I moved out here, I searched for them because I wanted to see what the landscape was. And there was no one. There were a couple of girls who were doing like small loungy type of things, but no one and at that time there was only like 3 or 4 larger clubs in hotels at that time. There was like Raw at Luxor, and right before Tryst was Tryst, there was something, I forgot what it was called at that time. And there was like the Drink and Rain at the Palms, but like there were no women whatsoever. And so that was really the inspiration for me, to where I was like, okay, cool. Now I know that. Now I'm going to put the plan together. And I had a couple of Dave Fogg and Warren Peace, who are two incredibly iconic Las Vegas staples, who are not just iconic in the sense of making it sound like, some like vintage like they are completely still smashing to this day, with headlining residencies at Excess and Dre's. Back then they put me on because I had known them from LA, and they were the two that really helped me get on, along with DJ5 was one of the first person who kind of put me on for a gig. And they were just like, okay, look, we know what you do. We know, that you are an elitist to a certain extent, and you don't like commercial this or that, whatever, but we're just telling you right now, you better figure it out and embrace it and make it your own, because if you don't want to play the commercial stuff, you're not going to work out here. And so I really had to figure out how I could sort of keep my integrity and be okay with that, but still be comfortable with expanding and really focusing on building a brand as opposed to just wanting to be a DJ. So
that's interesting. You brought up two very pinnacle people for Las Vegas music scene. I mean, Warren Peace right here in this building, or I think it was at a different building, but just in general to be on the station, and him and DJ88, and they had their show together. And
Warren is one of the first people that I met when he was actually doing the Word Up show. That's how I met him.
Wow.
It was one of those magic trips. And we connected, and I heard the show, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is like the West Coast version of Babito and Stretch's show. And that was it. And we are friends to this day, and he is an incredibly talented and entrepreneurial dude.
Yeah, I hear stories about them all the time. My dad was like, if you get involved in this radio stuff at UNLV, like, you got to really step your game up because there's history here because of those people. So shout out to them. They really made some moves out here. So that's beautiful that you met them and everything. And one thing I do want to kind of going onto a different direction, you've described like your music set, like when you DJ, to be cinematic, like a cinematic experience. So can you please elaborate on what that feels like?
I think how that all kind of came about is I've been very blessed to carve out opportunities for myself that allow me to show my diversity, and I get bored very easily, so I don't do well with monotony, and so I made it a point to sort of make sure that I played a bunch of different kinds of venues. So whether, so that I could exercise my library to a certain extent, because I have to be inspired when I play. I don't pre-think sets. I don't have things laid out. Everything is off the cuff. I'll obviously go through music almost every single day, especially with the internet now. I mean, if you're not on it 24 hours a day, which nobody really can be. I mean, there's no way to physically keep up with everything because new songs drop every 3 seconds. So, but I'm just saying, ooh, there's the party. Hey. But I love so many different kinds of music, so I want to constantly stay inspired. And so depending on where I'm at, when I'm playing, whether it's something that's a high energy thing, whether it's something that's hip-hop, whatever the genre may be, it is a very cinematic experience for me because I feel like I'm creating a soundtrack for whoever is in the room to create moments for them to take away. And I want to create moments. I want people to remember that, walk away with that, whether they met somebody for the first time or, had an amazing conversation with their friend or danced their... I can't say stuff. Keep stopping myself. Sorry. But it's all about moments. I mean, that's what music is. So to me, it's very cinematic.
And given like all of those like experiences you create, I can't imagine how many moments you've created genuinely for people that are like priceless. You've opened up for artists like Snoop, The Foreign Exchange, Sean Paul, Damian Marley. What are some of the favorite shows that you've DJ'd at? And what are some of like the experiences that you genuinely remember? Like, yo, that was a crazy moment, like a crazy night that you had gotten into.
I am so damn lucky. That's all I can say. I'm so thankful for so many different things. I'd have to say, in no particular order, because I can't really list them out that way, but opening for The Roots and for De La at the Hard Rock Pool. They used to do this thing called Friday Night Live, which they kind of reimagined recently that they're still doing now, but it's a different concept. But this was back early 2000s when actually like Seven Magazine and all of that launched, like pre-Seven Magazine, but they were the ones behind that whole series. And I opened up for The Roots and for De La, and that was definitely 2 of my favorite shows because it, like, the heads came out, and again, this was really pre-Mega Club. Like, this was early 2000s, so there were like 3,000-4,000 people at the pool at that time. And so for me to have an opportunity to really get super deep with it and not just play, like, I was not playing OPP. Like, I was digging super deep. I was playing like Live at the Barbecue and like all of these crazy, crazy songs that nobody ever got to hear. And so to see people's reaction to actually get to hear joints like that they don't get to hear on a regular basis, and then I always get a kick out of watching people's faces because it's actually coming from a girl, which is even the icing on the cake for me. But that connection is crazy. And then I'd have to say the other ones were the last 3 or 4 shows that I did at Insert Coins, rest in peace. That would be, I had De La there when I first came on as music director, which was one of the most insane shows ever because it was literally them totally impromptu to like 300 people in the most private, amazing sense ever. Brand Nubian was really awesome as well. And then me being able to bring out Foreign Exchange and Hiatus Coyote for the first time to Las Vegas was like absolutely remarkable. I might have cried probably 40% of that show.
And the Hiatus Coyote show
That
was
was a
dope.
big deal.
Yeah,
Man.
that was a dope show.
I was so emo. Like, I had to go in the back. I had tears rolling down. There's footage of me
I've watched those
crying.
It's good.
Yeah.
Those are really special tears. I liked it.
It was, you know, it was just watching hard work pay off in one of the most prolific venues that this city has seen. And so progressive and such a staple as far as music is concerned. So to watch all of that come together and then see this incredible, you know, I mean, she's just like a sorceress, period. And like the way that whole thing came together, it was just so organic and so beautiful. Yeah, it was great.
That's so crazy. We were like, as we were listening to this, I'm like looking at the questions that we had, and you just hit it right on the head. And I'm so happy to hear about your experience and how emotional it made you. And like, there's so many things that I wish
I'm so
that I
sappy.
could go to.
It's terrible.
I'm sad that we weren't old enough to go. I think there was like a Talib Kweli show that was there one time, and I was in high school. And then who else was there? And your dad went, and we were really jealous.
Yeah,
It was,
I bet you your dad was at the Brand Nubian show because all of the old jacks came out for that night.
Right.
But I mean, it was amazing. But the cool part about that place is that it would constantly was like 21 to like whatever 50 plus. Like it was always the widest demographic, age wise, ethnicity wise, taste wise. You know, I mean, that's what was really so special about that place.
that's awesome. And I'm so sad to hear that it closed. Like I when I finally turned 21, I was like, I want to go there. And then the door was
Did you not make it?
No. I didn't.
boo.
None of us made
I'm
it.
sorry.
It sucks.
We'll create new memories. You know,
Yeah.
we'll create new memories.
I was so sad, but you know that was a great memory, and I'm so sad to hear it close. But let's talk about what you're, working on now. Let's talk about Pop Up and the series. And
Or actually, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. I did want to go back to Insert Coins just for a little bit because, I mean, we talked about...
now that we're on that subject,
Yeah.
I'm sure he's listening. And if he's not, I'm sure he'll tune back in. But I want to give a big shout out and a thank you to Insert Coins owner Christopher Laporte, who was the one who saw the vision and the potential in me from a music director standpoint and gave me my first opportunity to create that position there and allowed me to have full creative freedom to take over the music director position and programming over there and create what we did. And I'm super appreciative of that. And even though it is closed, all good things must come to an end. You know, we created some really amazing memories, but he's an awesome dude, and he was quite the visionary himself. I mean, the place was very much ahead of its time. So,
No, definitely. And I didn't mean to cut off of the pop-up live, but just to see, like, especially in the video that you guys have for Hiatus Coyote and just seeing them play video games before their set and just things like that would have been a really cool place to experience. So that is cool that you became the music director. How did that come about exactly? You guys just knew each other? And
No. I mean, he knew who I was from a DJ perspective when he opened up the place because he's quite the research guy and definitely, explored the landscape prior to opening. It was a very lofty goal to open up that space at that time. It was the largest space on the block, and nothing else was really open at that time on that scale. I actually started DJing downtown, which a lot of people don't know. When I first moved here, my first residencies were at the Griffin and Downtown Cocktail Room.
wow.
And I had a fantastic time. And I got to like one spot I was playing like soul house, and then when I was doing the Griffin, I was doing like indie rock and funk and soul, and it was great. And then after that, I started doing the Friday Night Live thing, and then started on the Strip. And then when the Insert Coins, I was at the Palms, and I had just opened up Marquee. And I had heard about the place. I went down there, and it was funny, as you'll see in I think it's in the Foreign Exchange documentary. I walked in, I sat down, and Clones by The Roots came on. And I was looking around like, okay, what is, because that just doesn't happen out here. And you know, each song after each song was amazing. And I was just like, okay, this is crazy. And he had heard that I was there, and he came out, we started talking, and he asked me if I would be interested in DJing. And it started off with a Saturday night residency. And then as we sort of sat down and collaborated, and he kind of told me what he had as his vision to complement the video game experience that he was trying to provide and the bar experience and all of these other things. Music was a very, very important part to him, but he wasn't knowledgeable, and he liked what he liked. I mean, everybody that knows him, like at that time, he was just like Wu-Tang guy. Like he was, you know, he was insert coins guy, but he was all Wu-Tang all day long, and that's it. And he knew he liked other stuff, but he just didn't really know how to access it. And I kind of became that conduit, you know, for him. And with looking at my experience from what I had done, you know, in LA and in Vegas, he was just like, I want you to take this portion over, and let's kind of put the smash down on this collaboratively. And it was a fantastic 3 years.
And it's interesting talking about like, you know, experiences downtown, the Strip. You previously you kept using the term like mega club, right? Genuinely, I know Vegas has grown like over the past like couple of years into what it is today, like the rise of, you know, what you call mega clubs, like the Haggasans and everything like that. Like talk about that like transition, like you got to witness like in Vegas, like I guess you could say the cultural economy or whatever. I don't know how you want to refer to it, but like the nightlife scene, like how it's evolved.
I mean, you can bullet point it, you know, in a very simplified way. I would say that, I mean, it's all about music programming, really. And then once sort of trends catch, and you're able to attach a marketing value to things, like with the birth of bottle service, which is really what changed the entire landscape of Las Vegas. And that really came from DJ AM's residency at Rain.
Shout out to him.
Yes, which was awesome, because one of the last pop-ups that we did was the official after party for the AM documentary, which, did you know, Warren Peace is executive producer of?
I was so mad I didn't go.
Yes, so shout out to Warren and to
That's
DJ
crazy.
Kevin Scott for Direct Music Service. They're awesome, and they put that whole thing together. And at that time, you know, that was one of the first like major contract residencies that he had, you know, that slapped like a 6-figure contract on a DJ residency and really put like marketing dollars behind it and like made it this massive thing. And then that just, you know, the way that his style was with quick mixing, which was not common at that time, and just, you know, really catering to that short attention span of the crowd, and like visuals and all these things going on all at once. And it was like rapid fire, and it was so fresh, and it was so new. And that was like kind of in the midst of the whole mashup craze, which it was very overwhelming at the time, and it just really caught fire. And so bottle service and all of that really came out of that. And so that was, you know, that was it. All of a sudden, every venue wanted to have something that had that and had a headliner like that.
Definitely. And can you talk a little bit or speak to, just with you being here and starting off in like the early 2000s in Las Vegas and just talking about the landscape changing? I hear a lot about, obviously we're like fresh 21, and I hear a lot about the change in the kind of music and the kind of clubs that started popping up. Like it's taking a shift towards like EDM and like this dancey kind of music. And I heard that there were a lot more hip hop clubs back in the day, and they kind of started disappearing. Like, can you speak to that? Or like,
well, I mean, everything is cyclical, right? You know, everything goes in waves. And I feel like Vegas sort of fast tracked. Normally the waves are stretched out a lot longer. But when I moved out here, One of the first clubs that I went to was Raw at the Luxor, which was all hip hop. It was War and Peace, Mr. Bob, and Dave Fogg was, I believe, the music director at that time. But it was Dave and Warren DJing, and Bob was on the mic, and it was, but it was all hip hop. And at that time, it was, there was a large scene for mashups at that time as well. And then when Trist opened, I keep referring back to these two because I don't know if people really know what an intricate part they are of just the evolution of nightlife in general out here. But Dave and Warren were the ones that opened up Trist, and Trist was actually one of the ones that started playing outside of just mashups, and so they had sort of broadened that open format sound into what was going on overseas and in London with electro stuff and touching into like house and what was going to become, deep house and all of that kind of thing. And that was the first time that any of that had ever been heard out there, and people really kind of took to it, which then ended up becoming the sound that is now excess programming. And so, as those things sort of evolve and, you see something that works, and all of a sudden it becomes this, very large machine, and it is a machine. Nightlife is a machine out here, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love all different types. I love dive bars. I love small spaces where you can, hear intimate DJ sets. I like mega club experience. I like it all. That's not to say all of it is good or well executed, but, I know what is and what isn't, and I know where to go and where not to go. But it's a fascinating city, and you have to look at the good in it, And even though there's a lot of tomfoolery and a lot of uninteresting things that just are sort of robotic, there are still, there's shows like these that you guys do to put people up on game and teach the kids on that level, and then, you just got to make it happen. If it's not there and you want it, you can't complain about it. You just got to go out there and you got to create it. So
that's good. I'm going to tweet that. Yeah. That's really good. I've been tweeting this conversation, so excuse me being on our phones, but that's really good. I feel like a lot of people complain about Las Vegas often, so that's something that a lot of people should hear. It's easy to do.
I've done it.
Yeah.
And likewise. I have no problem with that because the politics of it all can be a little exhausting, and that part of it, there's not going to, it is what it is. You have to learn how to get around those things. You know what I'm saying? And that sort of goes back to the pop-up thing. That's how pop-up was created, was when Insert closed. I took a couple months off to figure out like what direction that I wanted to go, and I felt it was an obligatory move for me to carry the torch, because I feel like what I did there with Christopher and what we created there from the DJ team that I built, that was absolutely fantastic. And not just using the same DJs or going to a scam artist thing or this company, whatever, but really taking like new talent, giving them creative freedom, within, a range, because I wanted a specific sound at that venue, and really curating a team of DJs that we were recognized for what we built there from a programming perspective, because nobody else was doing what we were doing down there. That was what was most important to me. So any of those accolades that we got, the ones that were most important to me was the ones for programming and music direction at that venue, because we really were the truest open format. It wasn't open format, just doesn't mean hip hop and house. It is everything. On any given night, you could go in there and you could hear Steely Dan, or you could hear, Wu-Tang, or, whatever. You could hear Diplo. Like, it was just all over the place, and it all resonated with music fans. And so when it closed, that's how I started the pop-up, because I was like, okay, well, I feel like I got to carry the torch and I have to continue this because I want to be able to keep bringing not only emerging artists out here, but I want to be able to have iconic artists come out here and do intimate, full-scale shows to give an experience and continue to create those moments when people want to come out. Because when you go and you see these large, any of the large residencies at the mega clubs, it's a show. It's not a DJ set. It's a concert. Yeah, you're watching a DJ perform. You're not, it's not a party. You're not dancing. There's no, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying, unfortunately, Vegas has, the market's oversaturated, and that word DJ is a little too loosely used because it's not a DJ set. It is a producer who has a very large contract to play a residency at a big major nightclub. That's what it really is. And that's cool. And that's fun. And if you know what that is, then that's what you're prepped for. And I feel like it would be great if that were like separated a little bit more so people get it. Because a DJ is DJ, a party is a party. That's a show. Mm-hmm. So I felt like I wanted to get back to the intimacy of like a house party and like DJ sets and people dancing and not on their phones or staring at each other or looking to see who's in the room or, and that's kind of how it all came about.
No, I love that whole concept. And when I heard about it, I was like, I got to go to the next one for sure. I think that's probably a reason why we're not really big fans of clubs like that. It just didn't vibe with us. And music is such an essential part, to us. Sure. So to have something like that is very important.
Well, what we'll do is I'll give you like, after the show, we'll wrap out. One of these nights, I'll take you on like a 101 tour. So I'll give you like the Club 101 tour. Yes. We'll and I'll show you how to do it to where you guys can tolerate it, and you'll see like the good, because I always like to focus on the good, right?
Yeah,
like we can all focus on the negative.
Yeah,
but like what you have to understand is like the machines come and they get built off of culture, right? When original culture starts and you do a movement, then that becomes of interest to the machine, and then all of a sudden the machine produces something back. So you always have to keep creating the culture aspect of it, right? And you have to keep doing all of these new amazing things and like be ahead of the game and take those risks. And even if nobody catches on, 3 years in, this show is still going, and look who just got recognized this year for best reason to listen to. And that's the point. Right? You got to keep it pushing. You got to keep creating new stuff.
True. And shout out to your award as well from Las Vegas Weekly.
Yeah.
Best new party.
It was awesome. It was good timing. It was good timing. That was a good precursor to the launch of the Pop-Up Live.
Yeah. And then I know you've had like Cameron Calloway, Brittany Rose, a few other really dope local artists.
I got to tell you, it's amazing to me the amount of talent that's out here, because it's not so widely recognized, and it's also not as accessible as one would like, right? Because I felt like I was pretty tapped into the scene as a whole, like really. And then I had the pleasure of being asked to judge the Road to Life is Beautiful battle that happened recently at Brooklyn Bowl.
Shout out to her.
And shout out to Craig Nyman for putting that whole thing together. He did a fantastic job of pulling all these bands together. And so I was like, of course I'll do that. And I spent 3 weeks getting put onto like at least 7 or 8 bands and artists that I am literally like cannot wait to work with now, that I never even knew existed. One of them being my shirt that I'm wearing tonight is The American Weather. Oh. Yes, I loved them. But I got like rock stuff, hip hop stuff, whatever. Brittany did my first pop-up. Yes. That I ever did in November. That was the launch of the party, and I actually had her perform. She turned 21 that night. It was so amazing for me to see her win this thing, because it was a grueling 3 weeks. Like, there were amazing artists like Chop 808 and Oh Wildly, and it was phenomenal to see these kids just give it all for this. So there's a lot of talent out there. There's a lot of talent out there from a
Yeah.
DJ perspective and an artist perspective.
That's really cool. And I was, really excited. We're going to have Brittany on the show very soon. And we've had Cameron. So that's really awesome that you were able to tap in and really see those artists from your perspective. And I was going to ask you how you scout local talent, but you just know what's up.
Well, but that's what I've been doing my whole life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, literally my whole life is about finding new music and new talent. The internet, it just sort of like hyperspaced me for that now, because now I can find, things at my fingertips on a regular basis, which is amazing because that makes me super happy because I put out so many mixes on a regular basis. I love having new music and having things before, they drop. But I'm constantly scouting. And that Brooklyn Bowl thing was great because I felt like I got a ton of new talent within a 3-week span. So
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, it's like in terms of all of this, so much hip hop music specifically here in Las Vegas. Like there's so many shows like the Anderson .Paak, and there's stuff like there's people like Chance the Rapper coming out here. BJ the Chicago Kid is coming as well.
Yeah, that's gonna be
Again,
in a couple weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of like once again the architecture of like this city, do you think that not even just this city, more so like I guess you could say mainstream media in general, do you think a lot of things are becoming more accepted to hip hop music in general?
I think the great part about, again, you can always focus on the negative. There's a lot of bad music out there right now, but I think the great part about what's going on right now is what I referred to earlier as the artists that people love and sort of hold on a pedestal, whether they be an Anderson .Paak, that's like the toast of the music industry right now, on more of a, bubble up level, or somebody on a major level. There's this awesome sort of melting pot of genres and influences. So these artists that you love, you can very easily see how influenced they are. And they're very outspoken about the artists that influenced them. And that's what I think is most important to music right now, is for people to not be one-dimensional and only like hip-hop or only like rock. Or if they like hip-hop, they only like hood stuff, or they only like this, or they only like that. And you can't, because if you sit down and you ask any one of your favorite artists who their influences or what they like, you'll be so surprised to see, who it is that they listen to on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. And that is vocalized more right now. Like the Rihanna record was one of the biggest surprises of the year to me, because I did not expect that record at all. And you could clearly see what she was listening to for the last year or two to come out with that kind of a record, or the Kate Renata record, which is probably one of my favorite albums of the entire year, has massive influences. There's like house on there, and electronic, and hip hop, and soul, and funk, and like that is the future. That is what music is now, and that's indicative not only of music, but it's also indicative of pop culture and politics and everything that's going on. It is a one love situation. There's a ton of different influences there.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of Anderson .Paak, I know he skipped past this one, but I did want to ask you, so with Pop-Up Live, we're going back. We've been promoting this show for
That's okay. And I appreciate all that love. Look, this is one of the coolest, most exciting, anxious, nerve-wracking weeks of my life.
I'm sure. And so if you guys don't know, which would be crazy if you listen to our show, Anderson .Paak, July 29th. So this Friday, doors open at 7. It's going to be a movie. It's going to be really
a movie.
Fun.
It's going to be so cinematic.
Yeah, talk about Talk about how that came about and why you thought he would be the best to premiere the
I'm going to give all praises due to my dear friend Adrian Miller.
Shout out to him.
Who is Anderson's manager. And Adrian and I came up in the music business together early 90s. He was a radio promoter. He was a street record promoter. We were both hustling hard. I was doing parties and he was pushing records, and so amazing to then however many years later, 25, 20, whatever, to reconnect and do something collaboratively on a professional level, which is super cool. When I really wanted to take the pop-up party and turn it into a live scenario, I was just kind of waiting for the right artist, the right venue, etc. And I had reached out to Adrian, and I had fallen in love with Anderson's work and his diversity, and his stage performance was just incredible. And stars were aligned, and he was super supportive of me and what I was doing out here. And he was like, I want her to produce this show. And we, and it was landed at House of Blues from a Live Nation perspective, because he's a Live Nation artist. And I had the pleasure of being able to have this as my first 88 Ways Pop-Up Presents show. So, and I love that it's an all ages show. To me, that's super important, because I think he's one of the most important artists of this time, because of his diversity and from an intellectual standpoint, and all of these different, aspects that he has. That is just so magical. So I cannot wait to see the show. And it's early, so
yeah, countdown.
Yeah.
Ready.
So excited. So without obviously giving too much away, like nobody knows what the future holds, but what do you want people who go to this event, like what do you want them to walk away with?
The whole point of the pop-up series really is to give everybody look, it's for true music lovers by true music lovers. That's what this is. So again, I like everything. There's one thing that I teach my daughter, which I think is the most important thing in the world, which is you never judge a book by its cover. And you can take that in the most simplified form, or you can take that, in the largest form possible. Because the more diversity, the more things that you're into, the better, the more well-rounded you are as a person, as a human. And this is what this series is for people to have a full experiential evening. So not only do you get to see an intimate, full-scale show by an artist that you love, but then you also can shift right into taking that energy and that excitement from seeing what you just saw and go right into an after party, to where it is, again, an intimate situation that is completely tailored around the music fans and the music lovers and the artists that are going to see this show. So if it's an Anderson .Paak situation, then unfortunately, with a lot of shows out here, you go, you see an awesome show, and then they turn the lights on, they kick you out, and there's nowhere to go.
Yeah,
and then you're like, kind of whatever. You had a couple drinks in you, you're hyped up, you're like, oh, okay, what's next? And then you like end up going to a spot you don't necessarily want to go to, and listening to music you don't necessarily want to listen to, just because you want to be out. And so that's kind of what I want to create with this, because it's not a monthly thing or a regular thing. It's a pop-up. So it pops up when it needs to pop up, when it's important and when it's poignant and when it makes sense. So, I want the people that are coming to these shows to be able to go right into a sort of fun house party feel, after party exclusive scenario, to where they can continue to hear the music that they don't necessarily get to hear on a regular basis out here, especially since Insert Coins is closed.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'm so excited. I can't even. This is going to be a great time. So thank you for bringing him out. I don't know of him coming out here ever. So is this his first?
I believe he might have been out here once for a magic situation or something, but whatever it was a private thing. This is the first. Yeah, okay. This is the first. This is definitely the first touring scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is cool, because when I did the foreign exchange thing, it was their first time in Vegas as well. I'm all about the first.
That was the show. That was the one that I couldn't go to.
Oh,
old enough.
Well, girl, that was church on a Monday.
Yeah, I know my dad.
That was one of the greatest nights ever.
Wow.
Ever. That was definitely one of my favorite shows ever.
That's really cool. What is, since we're talking about AP, what's one of your favorite songs by him?
I have many.
Okay, top three.
I mean, well, I was asking you because you played that Room in Here.
Yes.
Where you had the original.
Yeah.
The remix is
I gotta hear that.
murder. It's so smooth. It's the Jazzy Jeff remix. And
sounds
completely
crazy.
different feel from the original, which I love a lot. It's very Dilla-esque, but it's really great. I liked a lot of his experimental stuff. Like, I love Glowed Up.
Yes.
I love the
Tokimon.
Rilla, the Tokimon, not the one that you played,
Yeah,
but
that
Rilla
one too
with
is
the
good.
yeah, that I like when he kind of, does, he goes out and gets some strange, and he kind of like
some
strays
strange.
from, I love Malibu, don't get me wrong. I think the album is absolutely amazing, but what I like about him is watching sort of the evolution of the journey that he does when he collaborates with other people.
Oh man.
Because there's so many different elements that, you know what I mean,
So many
that come out of that.
collaborations.
Like a lot of artists will do things with other producers or other artists, but it's still kind of that same, like there's that common denominator there that just like, okay, we know it's this, or we know it's this artist, but he seems to have like these different sides that come out of him that he allows other producers and other artists to bring out of him, which I think is really special.
That's a good point, because even if you listen to, Dr. Dre's album, and one of my favorite songs off of The Games, I don't remember if it's Documentary 2 or 2.5, is
Magnus,
Magnus
I know exactly.
Carlson. I don't know
Yeah,
if you know it by name, but that's like one of the most like dynamic songs on that. And then you hear Malibu, and then you hear Toki Monster with him, and it's just
has that touch, man.
You
He's
like name
all
another
over.
artist that. And this isn't even off me hyping up the show. This is me. This is me being
we'll
excited.
do it for you.
No, this is me being excited about. I think it's so important to have artists like this that have so many different layers, because
Definitely.
you can't, like, there really aren't that many that you can name that really have such a broad spectrum and be a musician and a songwriter and a vocalist and a rapper on top. You know what I'm saying?
Too much.
So I got a lot of favorite songs, but that mix that I did, that I put together for the show, I had a really good time putting that together because I did a ton of research and I wanted to get really, really rare joints that people don't know. And I kind of wanted to make that as a 101 for Anderson .Paak fans, because if you're a true fan, that mixes everything to you. And if you don't know him at all, it's like this great, AP 101, and then you're prepped, and then you kind of become an instant fan, because a lot of people, he did like all of these wacky, amazing covers of stuff that, you don't really know are out there. So
Yeah, no, that was a really good mix. Can you let people know where they can find it?
yeah, I have, that is on my, shout out to my Mixcrate fam. It's on mixcrate.com/DJ88 Sin City. There's a ton of different stuff, so whether you're familiar with me or not, from a music lover's perspective, there's, oh my God, probably like 20 different mixes on there of all different genres that are strictly for music. There's not a lot of commercialized stuff on there because I kind of, when I have to do that stuff, I do that, for work on a regular basis, which is cool. I enjoy that too.
Yeah.
But when I put the mixes together, I really put it together for the people who, are music heads.
That's so awesome. I think this is a great time to cut in our giveaway.
Yeah.
You guys think that's cool?
Yeah.
And she liked the flyer that you made.
That was flossy.
Yeah, appreciate
That was
it.
flossy.
I said, do you want to
who
him
I
dancing?
talked to today was Trey Borders. Shout out to
really?
Trey.
Oh, shout out to
Hey, that's the
him.
homie.
Who was talking you up, saying how absolutely talented you were, because
Aw.
I told him I hadn't met you yet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out,
He's
thank
good
you.
people.
I
Trey's an
appreciate
awesome
that.
guy. He's been super. I just want to thank everybody out there who's been so supportive of this show. I mean, all of my friends.
Wait a minute. I'm so
out there.
sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. I saw a tweet that Jerobi
That's what I'm saying.
tweeted you. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, what just happened?
Legend status.
I did. Again, I've been around for a while.
Oh man.
I have a lot of really cool friends and family in
Wow.
music business that I've had the pleasure of working with or just being friends with. And because everybody's been so supportive of my, you know, endeavors after Insert, because everybody loved Insert so much. And I think people are just really appreciated about just how passionate I am about doing something different out here. And not because there's anything wrong with what's going on, but just, you know, offering something different. And I think people are really super supportive of that. And a lot of those guys want to come out here and they want to play and they want to, you know where to go when they come out here and whatever. And so, yeah, Sadat X from Brand Nubian and Jerobi. And I had so many friends who reposted or posted on their own the artwork for that show, because they're also AP fans too. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like an all love thing. Yeah, I had like a interesting week last week where I had like 150,000 hits across like 15 different people that put it out there. So that made Adrian Miller really happy. But I'm excited to give these tickets away. Let's see how are we doing this? Do we get to see like who's the most excited? Do we get to do like a trick question?
Should we play a song and then figure it out, and then
do I get to choose one?
Yeah, you're gonna decide how we do this.
I wanted you to have that Come Down remix.
We have the regular version.
Okay, what else you got?
We have, you name it, and we don't have a lot.
Can we play Glowed Up? Oh, it's got curse words on it.
No,
we got the clean. We got the clean
on
deck.
Let's get glowed up right now.
Give me 1 second. Testing.
Thank you so much. We're so glad that we
thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
we appreciate it.
It was cool to chop it up. I felt like we were on the couch sipping coffee.
Yeah.
It's very rare to have people, who genuinely have so much experiences in this industry and are willing to just kind of share their experiences. So we appreciate that.
And it's refreshing
a blessing,
that you're a woman as well. From my perspective and her, it's just like really, I love that.
We're trying to figure out like what our next move is. Like we're trying to be multidimensional, and DJ has always been a thing that's crossed our mind. I mean, like if you love music, like I feel like sometimes it's like the automatic next thing that you feel is natural. So it's so awesome to finally have you in here. We finally have Glowed Up. So we're gonna, it's okay, but we're gonna play that for you and stay tuned.